Discover the incredible moment when a 25-year-old woman exposed the Millionaire CEO's hidden hum. Lily Thompson stood in the middle of the community center, her heart racing as she watched the townsfolk trickle in. She could feel the weight of their hope resting on her shoulders like a warm blanket on a frosty morning. In a small Midwestern town where everyone knew each other's names and deepest struggles, her determination to expose Thomas Blackwell's greed was about to collide with the tension flowing like electricity in the air. The stakes were high, but so was her resolve. Her bright smile had always been a beacon for her neighbors, a small flicker of light in a time riddled with uncertainty. Juggling 2 jobs while caring for her ailing mother and younger siblings left her exhausted but full of love for her family. The community center filled with laughter and shared moments had become her sanctuary, a place where she poured her heart into helping those around her. But now, an ominous shadow loomed. As she discovered Thomas's plan to siphon off resources, her tight chest heaved with indignation. A wealthy CEO with a heart made of ice, he aimed to exploit their labor while fattening his pockets, leaving behind broken families and empty houses. It ignited a fire within her. Were those struggles not worthy of being voiced? Certainly, they were. With each piece of evidence she gathered, she felt a surge of confidence. She wasn't just fighting for herself, she was becoming the voice of her town. The day of the town hall meeting felt electric. Tension hung in the air, thick like the fog that sometimes enveloped their little town. She looked around, the murmurs of anxious residents a testament to shared uncertainty. Some whispered hesitantly, whispering doubts about her abilities to take on a man so powerful. What if she risks everything? One woman murmured, clutching her purse like a lifeline. They were scared, she was scared. But this was her moment. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The hushed crowd turned to her, waiting for her attack against Thomas. With a deep breath, she stepped forward, the air saturating with anticipation. Mr. Blackwell, she began, locking eyes with the man whose wealth towered over them like a skyscraper, you think you can take everything from us without facing the truth of who we are? The murmurs turned into gasps, her words striking a nerve deep within their collective conscience. The faces around her clouded with anger, desperation, and even hope. But as the debate escalated, voices clashed like thunder. Some rallied behind Thomas, warning of job losses sparked by rebellion. Others, however, stood firm, united against injustice. In this crucible of emotion, friendships hung in the balance, loyalties teetering dangerously between fear of change and the longing for justice. As the flames of passion ignited, the assembly vibrated with raw desire for dignity rooted in shared pain but threatening to crack under the pressure of differing opinions, and then, just as she noticed the crowd beginning to stand with her, a shocking revelation brought the conversation to a screeching halt, intertwining past and present in a web of betrayal that shook the very foundation of their town. What secrets had they been keeping for so long? A gasp rippled through the crowd, eyes darting in disbelief. In that moment, Lily Thompson knew that this fight was far from over, and her heart raced with anticipation and dread. Would they emerge united, or would old loyalties drive them apart? The room fell silent, almost as if time itself held its breath. Faces that had once flickered with discontent now froze, eyes wide with realization. Lily's heart pounded against her ribcage. She could almost hear the heartbeat of the community, a collective rhythm pulsing in fear and uncertainty. And then, an elderly man in the back spoke up, breaking the spell. Lily, do you mean to say that he has been hiding money from us? I heard whispers, but his voice trailed off, filled with a mix of disbelief and hope. Lily nodded slowly. Yes. I have proof. But it's not just about the money. It's about everything: family homes lost, the struggles we've endured. I know it's hard to believe, but look at what's happening around us. We've got to stand together. The man's brow furrowed, and he glanced around, searching the faces of friends and neighbors that he had known for decades. They were all caught in this strange gravity of revelation. Slowly, murmurs grew loud again, rolling through the room like distant thunder. Is this true? A woman's voice was sharp, filled with tension. Lily turned, locking eyes with her. If we can confront this together, it could change everything. For all of us. Cynicism and skepticism swirled like a storm. And what if he retaliates? A younger man asked, worry etched into his features. What if we lose our jobs? The voices of doubts filled the air, and Lily sensed the crowd pulling away from her, fear clawing at their hearts. Doubt settled into the room, a familiar enemy. But within her, something sparked, igniting a deep-seated resolve. We're already losing our homes, our stability. She pleaded. Isn't it worth fighting for a chance to reclaim what's ours? That declaration hung in the air, and Lily could almost see the flicker of courage spread like wildfire, transforming the eyes of the people around her. They were weary, but hope seemed to whisper to them amidst the chaos. A woman reached out, tears glistening as she stepped forward. If you're with me, I'll support you. We all deserve a voice. Another followed, then another, each hesitant but filled with the nascent pulse of unity. Lily felt her heartbeat quicken as more people joined their hands, an unspoken agreement forming stronger bonds as they rallied behind her. Together, a chain of courage coiled around their collective fears, but just then, a sharp voice cut through the momentum. You all better think twice. You know Thomas won't go down without a fight. He has resources beyond your imagination. You're just playing into his hands. A hush fell again, but this time it lingered with an unfamiliar sense of resolve rather than despair. People shifted, whispers turned into conversations, ideas began to bloom. In that moment of shared doubt, they realized they were more than just individuals, they were a community, wrestling with shared fears, but willing to fight back. Just then, a sudden crash of a door opening drew everyone's attention. Thomas Blackwell himself strode in, anger etched across his face, confident and imposing. What's this I hear? You bunch of fools plotting against me? His voice sliced through the room, and the courage that had just blossomed in the hearts of Lily and her neighbors threatened to wilt in an instant. Lily fought against the rising tide of fear. This was her moment, but could she really stand against a man so powerful? And in that heartbeat of uncertainty, the stakes rose higher. In this battle, with everything hanging in the balance, who would hold the final trump card? Would courage prevail, or would fear smother their dreams before they had a chance to truly fight? As she stood, feet rooted to the ground, she realized that everything hung by a thread and the next move could change their lives forever. The tension in the air could almost be sliced with a knife. Thomas stood there, towering and fierce, the kind of man who could command respect with a mere glance. But Lily, bolstered by the newfound strength of her neighbors, refused to let fear take hold. Could she really speak up against him? Thomas, she said, her voice shaking slightly but steadying with every word. We're not afraid of you anymore. This isn't just about the money you're hoarding. It's about all of us, the struggles we face every day because of your greed. We've had enough. A ripple of gasps swept through the room. She could feel the weight of their eyes, the mixture of fear and admiration. The community was quiet, suspended in that moment, and Lily felt alive, a spark igniting in the depths of her stomach. Enough? Thomas's smirk faltered, his brow furrowing. Do you really think that banding together can change anything? You're mere ants, and I am the giant. I could squash this little rebellion without breaking a sweat. You think I won tea? We're not ants. Lily shot back, her spirit igniting further. We are your neighbors, your friends. We've supported you. And all this time, you've built your empire on our backs. You should be ashamed. Something shifted in the room. The air felt charged, as if the universe itself had conspired to amplify her words. Faces that had once been turned away began to show a glimmer of defiance. The younger man who had spoken before stepped forward. "Yeah. You can't keep taking from us and expect us to stay quiet. We're ready to fight back." A chorus of agreement erupted, voices lifting together, a swell of unity rising against the oppressive silence that Thomas had maintained for so long. Lily closed her eyes for a heartbeat, feeling the energy flow through her. This was it. Their moment, but Thomas's eyes narrowed, calculating and cold. "You think this is a game? I will take everything from you. I will destroy you," he growled, the menace in his voice washing over them like a dark tide. Lily's heart thundered in her chest, but she kept her chin high. "If you do that, you won't be left with a community. You'll be all alone in your arrogance, and you'll regret every choice you made. This isn't just about you anymore. We won't let fear rule us." The air around them thickened with uncertainty. A part of her feared what might come next, but she had to stay strong. The crowd was growing emboldened, inching closer, their faces lit with shared determination. "Look around you," Lily urged, gesturing to the sea of faces. "This room isn't filled with weaklings. We are connected, and together we can strip away your power." A woman cried out, "Let us unite. We won't let him control our lives any longer." And in that crucial moment, a spark turned into flames. The murmurs grew louder, transforming into a vibrant chorus of defiance. The community that had felt so helpless was rising up, refusing to let their dreams be extinguished. They were standing together, an army forged in resilience. Thomas scowled, realizing he was losing control. His hands clenched as if he were fighting against an unseen force. "You're making a mistake," he hissed, but the words no longer held power. Lily felt a rush of hope. "No, Thomas. You've made the mistake by underestimating us." With that declaration hanging in the air, a realization hit her hard. They could indeed be powerful together. But as Thomas turned to leave, his eyes, burning with fury, lingered on her. "Then let the games begin," he said, his voice low and dripping with malice. "You'll see what I'm truly capable of." As the door slammed behind him, a wave of anxiety washed over the crowd. Were they now even more vulnerable? Or had they just sparked a fight worth having? Lily stood, pulse racing, knowing that this was only the beginning of a battle that could change their lives forever. What strategy could they form? How far would Thomas go to silence them? And as the reality of their next steps loomed, her heart pounded with both dread and exhilaration. What would they discover about themselves in the days to come? Lily stood at the center of the room, surrounded by her neighbors who were brimming with newfound courage. The air was thick with possibility, but also with a palpable tension. Their voices one after another resonated with anger, hope, and defiance. It was electrifying. "What's our plan?" a voice rang out, a younger woman with bright eyes stepping forward. "We can't just sit here and wait for him to strike." Lily nodded, excitement stirring within her. "We need to organize. We can't let him intimidate us. We need to expose the truth about Thomas, the things he has been doing under our noses." Another neighbor chimed in, "I've heard rumors about when he gets his shipments in. Maybe we can catch him. Show people what he's hiding." "Yes," Lily shouted, her heart racing. "But we must be careful. If we act too hastily, we might just give him the chance to push us back down." While they debated strategies, an elderly man named Mr. Jenkins nudged closer to Lily. He had lived in the community long before Thomas came, and his lined face told stories of better days lost to greed. "You remind me of my late wife, dear. She stood up to bullies like him. We can't let him make us feel unworthy in our own home." Tears pricked at Lily's eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. It's time we fight for what's ours and bring back our community." The room stirred with renewed energy and determination. The plan was solidifying a late-night meeting to gather evidence, call everyone's attention to the truth, and let the world know about Thomas's insidious rule. But the underlying fear of Thomas lingered like an ominous cloud. As the group broke up, discussions and whispers floated down the halls. But Lily couldn't shake the memory of his last words. Let the games begin. That night, sleep evaded her. Every creak of the house felt amplified, a reminder of the uncertainties ahead. Would they be ready? Would Thomas retaliate in ways she couldn't predict? She could already see his eyes boring into her, filled with absolute contempt. The line between victory and vulnerability seemed so thin, but deep down, she knew she couldn't give in. Keep the faith, she whispered to herself. When dawn broke, Lily met with the others in an old coffee shop, a place once bustling with laughter now whispered of sadness and lost dreams. But today, it would be a headquarters for hope. They crowded around a table, going over their plan, maps spread out, papers filled with notes, and nerves taut like strings stretched ready to pluck. After hours of discussion, everyone felt their voice grow stronger. They shared stories of how their lives were impacted by Thomas's indifference and ruthlessness. Each tale added a layer to their resolve, their unity solidified. Then came the news. One of the neighbors, a tech-savvy young man named Kyle, burst through the door with wild eyes. I found something. You won't believe it. Lily's heart raced. What is it, Kyle? As he pulled a sheet of paper from his bag, the room fell silent, all eyes locked on him. It's a shipping manifest. It shows what Thomas is hiding. There's something in here that could bring him down. Hope and dread mingled. What could it be? A path to freedom or another trap? With hearts pounding, they leaned in closer, ready for the revelation, each one silently questioning if this would be their turning point or their undoing. As the tension gripped the room, what secret could change everything? Kyle cleared his throat, the paper trembling slightly in his hands. Okay, so this manifest, it lists cargo movements, and a lot of it is traced back to Thomas's warehouses. But look at this, he pointed to a section. These boxes weren't just simple supplies, they're marked as hazardous materials. Whispers filled the air. Nervous glances darted among them. Hazardous materials. The implications were enormous. Lily leaned in closer, her brow furrowing. What is he doing with them? Is he selling something dangerous? Kyle flipped the page, revealing more details. Exactly. It seems he has been importing toxic waste under the radar. And it's all happening at night to avoid detection. Mr. Jenkins gasped, a hand flying to his mouth. But that's illegal. He could be poisoning the land, the water, us. Right. Kyle's excitement built. If we expose this, we'll have him cornered. No one can ignore it if lives are in danger. The tension in the room transformed into something electric. Hope surged within Lily. Could this truly be the breakthrough they needed? But doubt crept back in, stealing her breath. But how do we present this? Is anyone going to believe us? A man named Tom, older and seasoned by the struggles of living under Thomas's thumb, interrupted her doubts. We need proof. We should record the shipments ourselves and gather testimonies from those who've seen the trucks. With witness accounts and this document, he won't have a leg to stand on. Lily's heart beat faster. This was at the moment they could shift the power dynamic. We need eyes everywhere. We'll set watch shifts during the night at the warehouse. We'll document everything. Kyle, can you arrange a secure way to share the tips and findings? I can do that, Kyle replied, a determined look shining in his eyes. As they finalized the plan, Lily's mind raced. A sudden swirl of courage mixed with fear. Could they truly pull this off? This was more than just rumors, they had tangible evidence that could change the course of their lives. The idea of confronting Thomas filled her with dread. What if he found out they were onto him? What if he retaliated? But as Mr. Jenkins's words echoed in her mind about standing tall against bullies, Lily felt a flicker of resolve. Let us meet back here tonight at 5, she said, her voice steady now. We'll execute our plan and take back our community. As they dispersed, the adrenaline pulsed like a steady drumbeat. Every step felt charged with purpose. But just as she reached the door, a dark shadow moved outside, gliding down the street like a predator on the prowl. Lily's heart sank. Could it be Thomas? Was he watching? She caught Kyle's eye and motioned him over. "Do you see that man?" she whispered, quickly pointing. He nodded, confusion etched across his face. "You think it's—" "I don't know, but we need to be careful. We can't risk him getting wind of our plan." As they stepped outside, the reality of their situation loomed over them like a storm cloud. Fear and determination intertwined within her, but she knew they wouldn't back down now. They had come too far. With a shared look of resolve, they set off into the day, unaware of the violence that lurked just beyond the veil of their intentions. The game was about to escalate, and Lily had no idea just how dangerous their next move would be. In the back of her mind, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Had Thomas already set his sights on quelling their rebellion? Little did she know, a showdown was brewing, one that would test the very fabric of their courage. Would they stand or fall? As the sun set, uncertainty loomed larger than ever. What dangers would a single night reveal? Lily and Kyle walked briskly down the street, their hearts pounding with the reality of what lay ahead. The plan was precarious, a tightrope walk over a pit of uncertainty, and they both felt the weight of it pressing on their shoulders. The gathering dusk painted the sky in swirling shades of orange and purple, a beautiful chaos that starkly contrasted their dark thoughts. "Do you think we'll really make a difference?" Kyle broke the silence, his voice barely above a whisper. Lily shot him a look, trying to share her confidence. "We have to. This isn't just about us, it's about everyone." They reached the alley beside the warehouse, where the scent of oil and earth filled the air, along with the stagnant smell of danger. It felt as if the walls had ears, absorbing their whispers. "I think it's better if we split up," Lily suggested, scanning the area for any sign of movement. "You take the east side and I'll cover the west. We'll meet back at the same spot in an hour." "All right," Kyle nodded, hiding his clear unease behind bravado. With a final glance at each other, they set off in opposite directions, hearts racing for different reasons. Lily's footsteps echoed eerily in the stillness that surrounded her, amplifying her fears. What if Thomas's men were out here? What if they caught her? She teetered on the edge of second-guessing, then pushed it away. This was her chance to take control not just in her life, but for the community she loved. Holding the manifest tightly, she reminded herself of the lives at stake. Each step felt heavier, but she pressed on. Around the corner, she noticed a rusty gate slightly ajar, leading her toward the back of the warehouse. It was darker here, shadows draping like cloaks over detritus and debris. The air felt electric, charged with impending danger. Suddenly, a low hum broke the silence. Lily froze. The sound grew louder, reverberating against the concrete walls. She crept closer to the gate, hearts thumping in sync. Peering through the crack, she caught sight of 3 men unloading boxes from a truck. The words "hazardous materials" screamed from the labels. Adrenaline surged. She fumbled to pull out her phone, desperately trying to get a good video, aware that this could be her only shot at capturing the truth. Her fingers shook as she hit record. The men laughed and joked, their muffled voices twisted by the distance. "Another delivery, boys. The old man's not going to be happy if we take too long," one of them grunted, tossing a box onto a pallet. Lily's heart sank and soared simultaneously. This was it, they were indeed shipping toxic waste. But then, a noise shattered her focus. The sound of footsteps. She spun around, anxiety punching through her chest. There was a figure stalking toward her, a man in a dark coat and cap, the very shadows of secrecy. She ducked behind a mound of crates, her breaths coming in desperate gasps. The pounding of her heart felt deafening as she watched the figure pace past her, unaware of her presence. What if he found her? What if he heard the recording? Panic clawed at her throat. Just as she thought he'd passed her by, he paused, his eyes narrowing as if sensing her. She held her breath, praying he wouldn't turn around. After an agonizing moment, he moved on. Lily's body felt frozen. She glanced at her phone, making sure it was still recording, thumb hovering over the stop button. If only she could get back to Kyle with this footage. As the man vanished into the dark, she slipped out from behind the crates and quickly crept toward the other side of the warehouse, her heart racing. She glanced at the time. It had already been longer than an hour. Had something happened to Kyle? What if they were both walking into a trap? Fear coursed through her veins. She needed to find him, and fast. Just as she turned to head back, something caught her eye. To her horror, she spotted another pair of shadows lurking at the entrance of the alley. They were waiting, lurking in the dark. Could they be waiting for her? Suddenly, every instinct screamed at her to run. Would she evade them? Could she make it back to Kyle in time? The danger was real, and the stakes were higher than ever. As shadows closed in, turbulence surged within her. This could be the moment everything changed. If only she could escape intact. Lily's heart thudded in her chest as she pressed her back against the cold metal of the warehouse. The shadows coiled around her, a foreboding reminder that time was not on her side. She forced herself to breathe, each inhale tasting of grime and fear. The figures at the entrance were still, like predators lying in wait. She needed to make a choice, the path back to Kyle or venture deeper into the warehouse where she might uncover more secrets. It felt like a gamble with too high of stakes. Just then, a loud crash rang out from somewhere inside, slicing through the tension like a knife. The sudden noise made her jump. A heartbeat passed, then another. The shadows shifted slightly, whispering of movement. A shiver ran down her spine. Clenching the manifest tightly in her hand, she turned and darted deeper into the warehouse. The inside was a maze of steel beams and splintered wooden crates. She could hear the muffled laughter of the men echoing from the loading area, a cruel contrast to the gravity of what they were doing. Each step she took felt like it was peeling away her courage, but she clenched her teeth, pressing on. She could already feel her resolve waver with every distant sound, her mind racing with possibilities of what could have happened to Kyle. Had he been caught? Or was he still hidden, waiting for her to return? She could already imagine him in trouble, unable to help himself, and that drove her forward. Just ahead, she spotted a faint light spilling through a crack in the wall. Maybe it led to an exit, or maybe it was another entrance to the main area where the men were. Squinting against the glare, she approached cautiously, heart racing and feet silent against the concrete floor. Sliding closer, she peeked through. What she saw sent her pulse racing anew. The men were indeed busy, but they weren't the only ones there. In the back corner, illuminated by the light of a dangling bulb, sat a tall man with a slicked-back hairstyle. It was Thomas. His laughter rang out as he chatted animatedly with one of his lackeys, tossing back a drink like they were celebrating. "Just think about it," he said, lifting his glass. "Once this shipment goes through, we'll be set for life. No more worries." Lily felt a surge of anger wash over her, followed closely by fear. This was what they were shipping, a threat to the community she loved. But in their bubble of merriment, they had no idea she was there. If she could get this footage to Kyle, if he was still able to help. But her heart thudded harder as she realized, at that moment, the danger wasn't just from the men. Thomas had the power to ruin everything, but she couldn't let fear hold her back. Quickly, she took a step away from the light to recalibrate. In that moment, self-doubt began to seep in. A voice in her head whispered worries. What if Kyle was captured? What if she was caught here, too? But then she recalled her purpose. As she turned to slip out of sight, she heard movement behind her, an ominous footfall echoing in the stillness. Panic shot through her. She had to move. Lily sprinted, the cold air pushing against her. Every instinct screamed at her to keep going, but the voices were closing in. She rounded a corner, nearly stumbling over a stack of crates that threatened to topple. Adrenaline surged, propelling her forward. Where was Kyle? Did he need her help? Her heart raced with questions, but the one that rang the loudest was whether they had made a significant impact at all. She slid to a stop, scanning the area in hopes of spotting any sign of him. And then, there it was, a flicker of movement in the dim light, his familiar silhouette peeking from behind a row of barrels. Relief washed over her, but a panic lurked just beneath the surface. Had he found something, or was it too late for them both? Just before she could call out, a hand shot out from the side, snatching her wrist. Gotcha. Lily's breath caught. Who was it? The familiar face of her ally was masked by the shadows as the figure dragged her closer, a sense of betrayal flooded her heart. Would it be friend or foe? And would they discover the hidden truth together, or was this the beginning of the end? Lily's stomach dropped as the figure yanked her closer, the grip like iron around her wrist. The shadows shifted, revealing Kyle's face, his features twisted with worry, but relief washed over his eyes as he recognized her. She exhaled sharply, confusion mingling with confusion. Lily? He whispered urgently, glancing around as if the walls were listening. You shouldn't be here. It's too dangerous. I had to find you. She snapped back, heart racing as the thought of what might happen if they were discovered tightened her throat. Did you find anything? He nodded, glancing back toward the loading area, and she followed his gaze. The laughter from Thomas's group carried a sense of impending doom. I think they're moving the goods tonight. We need to get out of here, but we need evidence first. This whole operation, his words trailed off, but the implication hung heavy between them. Lily felt a surge of anger. Do you know what they're shipping? She asked, her voice dropping to a fervent whisper. It's not just goods, Kyle. This is about something bigger, something that could hurt our community. I know, he replied, his expression grim. I've seen the labels. Drugs. I realized it after I overheard them talking. They're connected to some big players in the city. But we need proof to take them down. As he spoke, time seemed to slow. The weight of their mission settled heavily on her shoulders, mixed with the fear of what would unfold if they failed. She remembered the faces of friends and family who would suffer if they didn't act. Let us get the footage. We can expose them together. Wait, Kyle said, peering around the corner. We need to find a better angle. If we just rush in, they'll see us. He took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. Let us go through the back. I think there's a maintenance hallway that leads to the main area. Nodding, Lily took a step forward but felt the cold bite of doubt creep back in. What if they were caught? What if Thomas had already sent his men out searching? She pushed the fear away, focusing on the fire that had ignited inside her, a determination to protect those she loved. Follow me, Kyle instructed, leading her through a narrow passage cluttered with discarded tools. They navigated the debris like ghosts, avoiding the prying eyes of the men gathering near the main loading bay. The dim light flickered, casting eerie shadows across the walls, but they pressed on, every heartbeat synchronizing with the urgency of their mission. Emerging into a space that overlooked the bustling loading area, they crouched behind stacks of crates. Lily's heart raced as she saw Thomas, animated and confident, his arms waving as he made promises to his men. This will put us on the map, he laughed, raising his drink high, oblivious to the danger creeping closer. Do you see the van? Kyle murmured, pointing to the back. They're loading the last of it. We have to get that footage. Now. Lily nodded, nerves fraying, but her resolve only grew. They were on the cusp of exposing something terrible. With the camera in their bag, Lily felt a surge of hope. Let us do this. As they prepared to move, however, a sudden loud bang echoed through the warehouse. The men froze, and all eyes snapped in their direction. Panic surged through Lily as she realized they were on the verge of being discovered. Go! Kyle hissed, and they bolted from their hiding spot, sprinting toward the shadows. A shout rang out. Hey! You! Stop! Lily's mind raced. They had to reach the camera in time. Would they uncover the truth, or would this gamble cost them everything? Their footsteps pounded against the concrete, but uncertainty lurked in every corner. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but the truth was just within reach. What would they find when the truth finally came to light? Would they battle against time, or would they fall into the grasp of danger? Lily's heart thundered in her chest as they raced through the shadows, the echo of their footsteps chased by the angry shouts of Thomas's men. She glanced over her shoulder, catching sight of a burly figure breaking away from the group, eyes wild and focused on them. "Faster!" Kyle urged. They dashed around a corner, skidding to a halt as they found themselves at a dead end, a cold, steel wall looming before them. Panic flickered in Lily's chest, dimming the hope that had sparked while watching Thomas's bravado from the rooftop view. "Back!" Kyle shouted, pulling her to a narrow gap between two large barrels. They squeezed through, the fabric of her shirt snagging, but she barely felt it. The adrenaline surged, drowning out all sense of cramped space, fear, or shame. Emerging on the other side, they found themselves in an alleyway behind the warehouse. The chaos of the loading area faded into muffled thuds and angry cries, but they couldn't stop. They had to go. Which way? Lily gasped, scanning the darkened landscape. The moonlight barely pierced through the buildings, and everything looked unfamiliar, shadows swirling with doubt. Kyle's voice was low and urgent. "There's a side street that leads around the front. We can work our way to the exit if we're quick." They moved, shadows blending with the night as they darted around debris and dodged crates. Lily's mind buzzed with thoughts of what they might discover if they could just get that footage. The weight of responsibility pressed down, urging her forward. She thought of her neighbor, Mrs. Adamson, who had lost her son to addiction. That face haunted her, pushing her to uncover the truth, no matter what the cost. Suddenly, a harsh light flooded the area, illuminating Kyle's features just inches from her. The metallic edge of fear sliced through her resolve, and she froze. "Kyle, what if keep moving?" he hissed, pulling her along. They slipped into a dark recess beside the building, breathing heavily in synchrony. They were safe, for now, but it felt only like an illusion. Lily's heart raced, not just from running but from what was at stake. "What if we don't make it back?" she whispered, fear creeping into her voice. "What if we get caught?" Kyle locked eyes with her, firm and unwavering. "Then we'll make our stand. We can't turn back now, Lily. Not when we're this close." A collective determination swelled within her, pushing the fear aside. "You're right," she replied, gripping his arm. They were a team, bound not just by friendship, but by a mission that ran deeper than any of their fears. "Let us do this." They crept around the side of the building, moving toward the van they spotted earlier. Sure enough, it was parked behind the warehouse, waiting to be loaded with its illegitimate cargo. But there was no time to marvel at their luck. They needed the camera footage. As they crouched behind a truck, Lily could see the men casually chatting near the van. It was complacency born of secrecy, and it made her blood boil. Her breath caught in her throat. "If they could just make it to the van." "Look," Kyle whispered, nodding toward a slim gap leading toward the rear. "It's just a few feet away." "Yeah, but what if they catch us?" Lily could hardly speak, visualizing every terrible outcome. "Then we fight. But we won't know anything until we try." He was right, and that simple truth reignited the fire within her. They couldn't back down now. With steely resolve, she nodded, preparing for the final dash. They sprinted toward the van, her pulse racing, but just as they reached for the door, a voice thundered behind them. "Hey! You kids!" Time froze. Lily turned just in time to see Thomas's intimidating figure emerging from the shadows, eyes blazing with fury and predatory intent. "Step away from the vehicle now." Every instinct screamed at her to flee, but they were out of options. They were face to face with danger, and the truth hung in the balance. What would their next choice be? Fight, flee, or find the courage to stand against a monster? Lily felt the heat of panic surge through her veins as Thomas's voice rumbled like thunder, echoing off the cold walls of the alley. This was the moment everything hinged on, and fear gripped her tightly. But beneath that fear, a relentless fire ignited her resolve, a yearning to protect her community, her family, the very essence of everything she loved. She swallowed the lump in her throat and stepped closer to Kyle, who stood beside her, ready for whatever lay ahead. "Now!" Kyle shouted, and they sprinted past the van, dodging the shadowy menace of Thomas. Every muscle screamed to run, to escape, but the thought of leaving the truth behind pushed them forward. They dove around the corner, urgency thrumming in their hearts. "Where to?" Lily whispered, wild-eyed, her mind racing for an escape route. "Inside." Kyle responded, motioning toward a set of doors barely hanging on their hinges. They burst through, slamming it shut behind them, breathing heavily in the dim light that illuminated a narrow hallway. The stale air tasted of neglect, rife with the weight of secrets that had marinated for too long. "This way," Lily urged, heading down the hall. But as they moved deeper, heavy footsteps echoed behind them. Thomas was hot on their trail, and the threat of capture loomed closer with every heartbeat. That eye in the back of her mind, fear whispered treacherous doubts. What if they failed? What if this was all for nothing? In that moment, though, she thought back to the faces of her neighbors, those dull in despair, and the resolve of the people rallying behind her. They were counting on her. She forced every ounce of doubt away and grasped onto the glimmer of hope that flickered in her heart. "Lily, over there." Kyle pointed. An open window sat forlornly at the end of the hall. It offered light and escape, a semblance of normal life waiting just outside. Desperation flared as they raced toward it, but the walls around them seemed to close in tighter, the air thickening like heavy fog. Just as they reached the window, the door slammed open with a force that rattled the very air. "You think you can just steal from me?" Thomas bellowed, his voice dripping with fury. The two froze, faces frozen in shock mixed with fear. "We're not afraid of you," Lily shouted, every fiber in her body bracing for this confrontation. "You've been destroying lives, and we're here to stop you." Thomas stepped closer, shoulders square, a predator reveling in the kill. "You are nothing, Lily. You think your little rebellion can change anything? You're all fools for sticking your necks out. Maybe we're just tired of living in shadows." Kyle cried, fury igniting his voice. He and Lily exchanged a look that ignited a surge of bravery. They were indeed more than mere ants under Thomas's heel, they were a whole community learning to fight back. "Get out of our way," Lily shouted, pulling her phone out of her pocket. "We have enough evidence to bring you down." "Evidence?" Thomas laughed mockingly. "You think I care? I could very well ruin you both right here." But in the face of danger, hope boiled over. "You win," Lily cried, thrusting the phone forward as if it held the power of truth itself. "We know about the toxic waste. We know everything." A flicker of uncertainty crossed Thomas's face, and it gave Lily the room she needed. "You see, Thomas, you might have the power now, but the truth will always find its way to light. You're running on borrowed time." With that, they lunged toward the window, struggling against the sheer force of fear and the shadows creeping in from behind. The threat remained real and visceral. As they climbed through, a shout rang out, both a challenge and a warning. But they were free. The cool night air enveloped them, invigorating and fierce. Heart hammering, they landed safe on the ground. Adrenaline coursed through their veins as they darted down the alley, running as fast as humanly possible toward the gathering storm of their community, toward the fight they had ignited. Back at the community center, as they burst through the doors, a wave of voices filled their ears. Neighbors, standing shoulder to shoulder, united in courage, eyes glittering with determination. They turned to Lily and Kyle, relief pouring over them, hearts beating in tandem with the hope they were chasing. "Did you get it?" someone called out, their eager eyes searching. "Yes," Lily gasped, holding the phone high. "We have proof. We can take him down." Cheers erupted. Hope was no longer a distant whisper, it was tangible, alive in the air around them. Together, they could overcome, their voices rising as one. With the weight of their community behind them, Lily felt her heart swell. They were charging toward a final confrontation, hand in hand in the light of the truth. Victory was within reach. Now is the time for you, dear friends. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss out on the next exclusive stories that could transform lives just like Lily's. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support because it matters. Leave your comments below, sharing your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. What does it mean to you? And don't wait not even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support means the world to the channel, and together, we can inspire even more stories of hope and courage.